All right, thanks. Okay, so everyone's muted and we're getting started. So welcome to Pilates. This is mat Pilates. What you'll need is your body and you'll need your mats. And in addition to that, if you want to take water breaks at any time, please do so. I am going to teach this class straight through for 50 minutes, 50. That doesn't mean you can't stop and take breaks at any time. I recommend if you need Pilates, to put your device like right around here. That way you're not like straining your neck to look at me. Look at me for some guidance and then, realign your neck to the front or when we lay on our back to the ceiling. Feel free to modify the movement. So if you have any wrist injuries, you can do things on your elbows. Having said that, feel free to play music. So I'm not playing music here, but you can always play music there. Let's start with the most important part of Pilates. Actually, it's one of the most important part of life. It is breathing. We're going to inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. Inhale. Smell the hot chocolate. Exhale. Cool the hot chocolate down. I actually just bought this hot chocolate mix and I love it. It's great. So as we breathe, we're going to inhale and lengthen through the top of the head. As we exhale, you can draw the abs in a little bit just to engage. It helps to expel the air too. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale. Flex. One more time, sitting, inhale, exhale, flex, and roll down. One vertebra at a time, inch by inch. Good. So here we want to align our head and neck to the ceiling. Yeah, nothing really exciting to look up there unless you put a poster up there. We're going to inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. Same breathing goes on throughout this entire class. Inhale through the nose, exhale out through the mouth. So we have neutral position, with a small space under the lower back, and imprinted position, where press your lower back down to the mats and you're fully in contact here. So a lot of support for your lower back. So I'm going to inhale, come into neutral, tailbone on the floor, small space under the lower back. Exhale, imprint. No space under the lower back, tailbone off the floor. So it's kind of like, I'm exaggerating here, but this little pelvic tilt, okay? Inhale, neutral. Exhale, imprint. So you don't want to intentionally arch your back. You just want to release from the imprint. Release into neutral. Exhale, draw and engage your muscles, your ab muscles into imprint. Release into neutral on the inhale, and then exhale, imprint. Then we're going to hold on to the imprint, legs to tabletop. Shins parallel, thighs vertical. Exhale, knees at 90 degrees. We tap the floor. Inhale, return. Exhale. So I'm just looking over, but you don't need to look at the screen constantly. You can realign your head and neck to the ceiling. If your device is somewhere down here, you can nod your chin a little bit and look. I always think nodding the chin to look is a little better than turning your head to look at the device. And exhale to lower, inhale to lift. If you're wondering if you're going too fast, just go slower. All right, slower is always better. Exhale, inhale. You're pretty much moving with your breath. So as long as it takes me to exhale, 2 to 3 seconds, inhale, 2 to 3 seconds, it's a good pace. You can continue doing one leg at a time. The challenge here is to keep the imprint while the legs are moving. So for extra challenge, if you want, you can lower both legs. So it's a lot more challenge to maintain the imprint when both legs are moving. You can go halfway down, see what it feels like. If it's challenging for you to go halfway down, then stop with your legs halfway down. Or if you want to go all the way down and you can maintain your imprint, then go all the way down. Good. And if you're choosing the single leg version, you can continue with that. So make sure you just do an even number. The last one here. So from here, I drop my heels, relax my quadriceps, my thighs, and place my feet on the floor. I'm going to roll up into our hip bridge. So press through the heels, feel that lengthening through the knees. God, these pants keep rolling down. Oh, I think they're too high-waisted. Keep rolling down. I will not wear these pants for Pilates again. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale. Press through your heels. Roll on up. Reach those knees. Like you're trying to reach your knees over the toes, away from the shoulders. Inhale at the top. Exhale. Roll back down. So feel yourself sort of lift up each vertebra, one at a time. Until you're resting on your shoulders. And then as you lower, it's also inch by inch, one vertebra at a time. So I'm really focusing on the spine mobility here, as well as engaging the glutes. So your glutes are part of your core musculature. Pilates focuses on core muscles, which are any muscles that attach to your spine and your pelvis. Nod the chin, look towards your knees, and lift the head, neck, and shoulders. Good. Inhale to release, exhale to lift. So you want to always have a slight tuck in your chin to protect the neck. If I lift my shoulder blades here and look at the ceiling, that is me hyperextending the neck. My neck is no longer sort of going with the curvature of my spine. We want to keep the head and neck always aligned with the spine. If your spine is straight, then you're looking straight ahead. Example is right now. But when my spine is flexed or curved, then I want that head and neck to be staying with the same curve. Let's do one more here. And then we're going to go to hundreds. The hundreds is going to be endurance of the abs, pumping 100 times the arms, the entire arms, not just the wrists. You can keep your legs where they are, tabletop together, legs together vertical, legs together diagonal. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 10, inhale. Exhale, 20, inhale. I go pretty fast. Exhale, 30, inhale. Exhale. 40, inhale. Eye gaze on the knees. Exhale. 50, inhale. Exhale. 60, inhale. Exhale. 70, inhale. Exhale. 80, inhale. Exhale. 90, inhale. And exhale. 100. Good. I like to say that I count 100 in about 60 seconds, but I've actually never really timed it. I think it's less than 60 seconds. But again, I've never timed it. Maybe I will one day. So we are now on our stomach to work on the spine muscles. Fingertips to elbows on the ground for forearm support. And again, talking about that head and neck being aligned with the spine. Since we're now arching the back, lifting the chest, the natural curve of the head and neck would be a slight eye gaze forward movement. So I look at the floor, and then I am looking at the floor maybe 6 to 10 inches ahead of where my starting point was. What I'm really going to try to avoid is looking up at the wall, because that would be a hyperextension of the neck. Good. Feel free to keep the forearms there for supports as you work on those spine muscles. And if you would like to take away that support, you can reach those arms towards your toes, squeeze those shoulder blades together a little bit more. Maybe lift the chest a little bit more. It's never about how high you lift, it's about lengthening. Feeling the length from the top of your head away from your toes as you use the muscles around your spine to lift the upper part of your torso. Yeah, let's do one more. Yeah, this is just working on your postural muscles. So go ahead and sit back and stretch here. So the spine can move in a flexion, which is this, and the extension, which is what we just did, the arching. And then we can also do work in our spine in neutral. So here we have our elbows underneath our shoulders. So there are a couple ways to get in the plank. You get into it from the top like this, right? From my knees, reach. Let me show you another way, which I don't do as often, mostly because I'm on my knees as I get into the plank. But another way of getting into it is you're on the ground. You tuck the toes under, you activate the quads. See me activating the quads? There, I pull my kneecap right off. There's my other one. So you can see that when I don't activate my quads, how my leg is just kind of on the ground. If you activate the quads, And then you draw your belly up. So this is me, relaxed belly, abdominals drawn in. I also push into my forearms. So I'm basically engaging everything, preparing for the lift up. And the final thing I do is squeeze my butt and lift up into my plank. And you don't have to get into planks that way. That's just one way. The other way, again, is coming from your knees, extending the legs behind, and then lowering your butt into shoulder height. Take 3 breaths together. Inhale. Exhale. Remember the plank. It's not just your abs that are working. It's not just your transverse abdominis. It's also your glutes and your quadriceps, as well as your shoulders. Inhale. Exhale. Eye gaze on the thumbs. Last breath in and out. Good. Come over there. Coming to the front half of your mat, which you don't have to, but just saves adjustment later. Half roll back. So the reason I always teach this is because, well, it's one of the first positions we start in, right, in Pilates, but it's a segue into the roll up. And if you don't like doing the roll up, or you feel like you can't do the roll up, you can always come back to this, because this really helps with mobility of the spine. We're going from a rounded spine to a neutral spine. Try to create the curviest C curve you can by drawing the abs in and keeping those shoulders relaxed away from the ears. There's a lot of variations you can do in this exercise, with this exercise. So one variation is an arm sweep that opens up our chest. So this is me squared up to the front. This is me opening up to the side. My other arm stays in front of the shoulders. The shoulder it belongs to, that is. And here is me opening to the other side. Good. So just adding a little bit of rotation. It's okay if you don't sit up straight all the way. But again, if I didn't rotate, then you couldn't see my chest. But as I rotate, you can sort of see part of my chest. So that's your pelvis staying stationary and your rib cage rotating around the spine. Right? Your pelvis and rib cage can move independently around the axis of the spine. All right, so one thing I want to try here before we roll all the way down is sitting back onto your tailbone, grabbing behind your hamstrings, and then lifting up into a balance. Okay? So you can start one leg at a time, and then the other. You can put it back down. So you should feel your abdominals grip more. Which again, try to keep those shoulder blades down and relaxed. And what we're going to do is try a leg extension. Now, when I do the leg extension, feel free to keep the other leg on the ground. So I'm going to lift just the front leg. I'm going to extend the leg, and I'm going to pull it back in. Now, notice as I extend the leg, I also lean back a little bit. And the reason I do that is for counterbalance. If I extend the leg without leaning back, and especially if I'm doing this with both legs off the ground, I'm basically just going to kind of fall. All right, so you want to feel that counterbalance. So I'm going to try a few with one leg on the ground. We'll lift the other. Good. One more time on each side. And then I'm going to do it with both legs off the ground. I'm still leaning back and still keeping that C curve in the half roll back position. Good, so now both legs are off the ground, and I'm going to extend the front leg, and then I'm going to extend the back leg. Exhale here. Inhale, return. Exhale, reach. You don't have to fully extend the leg. I just want you to feel the challenge in your abdominals. At the end of the day, that's what Pilates is. We try to manipulate our limbs to challenge the abdominals. Of course, there's also our quads, hip flexors. Those are all core muscles because they help stabilize the pelvis. So we do want to target those as well. One more time on each side. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, go ahead and lower the feet and roll all the way down. Good, so for the full roll up, we have a couple options here. There is the single leg tabletop option. So as I reach, my arms are active. I actively reach toward the ceiling and actively reach towards my feet. I peel myself off the ground. And when I feel like I'm going to get stuck, I extend the legs, and that helps me with the roll up. So I'm looking for a nice smooth roll up. Now, as I stretch here, you can point the feet or you can flex. I kind of like to flex because it gives my calves a nice little stretch at the same time that I stretch my hamstrings. That's up to you. Rolling down. Active legs, so they're not relaxed. I know you can't really tell, but I'm squeezing my quadriceps and really anchoring those heels to the ground to control the lowering of my torso. So now I have the other leg. Let's try to make this as smooth as possible. Inhale, exhale, and dive. Okay, feel free to continue with the single leg tabletop version. Another version is keeping the heels on the ground. So this all really depends on spine mobility. Inhale, exhale. So you really want to create a very, very curvy spine on your way up, because it's really difficult to lift a straight spine off the ground. Now, in terms of rolling down, if you feel like it's quite a challenge as you roll down with your arms forward, then keep your arms forward. If you want a little more challenge during your roll down, you can change the position of your arms, which affects how your abs feel. Right now, you're just resisting gravity. Resisting. And your weight of the arms can change how much work you feel in the abs. Let's do 2 more. You don't have to do as many as you want. Focus on quality over quantity, so I usually do around 6 to 8 reps. Focus on the breath. Inhale, exhale. And focusing on technique. Pilates is a stretch and strengthen one. So we're strengthening our abs, we're also stretching our hamstrings. And adjust clothing as needed. No shame in that. All right, so we're gonna go into our single leg stretch. So the higher the diagonal, I would say the more the hamstring stretch, but the easier it is on the imprint. If you lift the head, neck, and shoulders, extend the leg on a lower diagonal, a little more challenge to the imprint. So find what's challenging and doable for you. Exhale, reach. Inhale to transition. Exhale, reach. You have to grip tightly on your knee. It's really like, well, where are my hands going to go anyways? It's just kind of a gentle guiding of the knees in towards your shoulder. Now I'm going to take the hands behind the head and do a gentle rotation. And I use the word gentle because it's really not about like pulling across vigorously, right? It's like keep your elbows wide, turn one shoulder towards the opposite knee, and then the other. Keep breathing. 2 more. Good. From here, double leg stretch. Head can go down. You're stretching both legs on the diagonal. Where is it going to go? It's up to you. So lower to the ground, more challenge to the imprint. So as I extend both legs, I really don't want to feel my lower back arch off the mat. It's a little easier to maintain imprint when the head, neck, and shoulders are lifted, but it is more work to the abs to lift the head and shoulders. And if your neck is fatigued, then, that's a cause for concern. So you do want to relax your head back down until it's rested, and then you can bring it back up. You do build sort of strength in the neck muscles over time, so I encourage you to lift it up as much as you can, and then just put it down as you need. Last one. All right, so scissors. Great hamstring stretch here. Again, head can go down. Switch. Stretch of the hamstring. Switch. Switch. Exhale. Inhale, switch. Exhale. I know the inhale is kind of quick, right? Because that switch is kind of quick. But again, you can always slow it down. You can do inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. It looks like I'm in a slow motion movie right now. But it does add extra challenge when you slow it down. Not gonna lie. Last 2. Last one. Good. I'm trying my best to keep my leg as straight as possible because it gets my quads more active. But if you have tight hamstring, then you have slightly bent knee. That's okay. So let's flip it on over again. And we want to do leg extensions this time. So once again, we're gonna, if you look at my quads, I don't know if you can see, but I basically kind of pop my knees off the ground because I'm activating my quadriceps. So you want to have both legs, both quadriceps on both legs active so you can really squeeze the butt and lift the leg straight. Because if you don't activate the quads, you'll bend your knees, all right? So let's stack our hands and rest the head and lift one leg at a time. The leg extension is a glute hip extension, and your quads are fired up to keep the leg as straight as possible. Good. Once you've gotten that situated, you can add an upper body lift with the arms. Now keep in mind I showed you two other versions earlier. One is a forearm assist, and then the other arm is one is reaching arm back. So if you prefer doing either of these methods, go ahead. Or a third method, or a third variation, is stacking those hands on the forehead and lifting. So I'm just inhaling to lift one leg and the torso at the same time. Arching the back and working the muscles and the posterior chain. Now, everyone's lower back is a little bit different, but if you feel like your lower back is okay for lifting both legs at the same time, try a couple. Inhale, lift, exhale. Think less about the lift and more about the length. So lengthen from the top of the head through the toes, even as you're lifting. So I'm really thinking about this length and that length. Okay, not too many of these. Our spine muscles are important to work and strengthen, but they're also a little bit sensitive, so we don't want to overdo it. All right, give your spine a little bit of stretch. So this is called a shell stretch in Pilates. You basically want to pretend like you're forming a shell over something. The shell over a beach ball that is on your mat. All right, we're going to try another plank, and this time with a little bit of movement. So since we're doing another plank, I'm going to get into it from the other version. So I have my shoulders, my elbows underneath my shoulders. I'm going to extend one leg back, so I tuck my toes under. I'm really firing up the quads with the leg straight, and then I do it with the other. My butt is high, and then I'm just going to lower, squeezing my butt, squeezing my quads until I'm in a plank. And then from here, I'm going to scoot my toes back a little bit, and then I'm going to push through. So when I move my toes back a little bit, my shoulders, if you notice, go behind my elbows. And then when I push into my toes, it takes my shoulders over my elbows again. So we're going to exhale to rock back, inhale to rock forward. Some people also call this a saw plank, because like a saw, you go forward and back. We aren't going up and down, forward and back. Exhale, inhale. Let's do 3 more. It's very challenging. And 2, and 1. And if you have socks on for some reason, it will just make it more challenging. Your toes might slide in the sock. That's one reason I do Pilates barefoot. So, I'm going to lie down on the edges of our body. I guess you call this an edge. I don't know what you call it. So it's the side of your body. You should feel a little unstable if you're to lift your top arm. And that if you do feel unstable, then it means you're in the right position. And from there, we're going to do our sideline leg lifts. Things to think about. Abdominals are braced. Even though we're not directly working on our abs, they are stabilizing. Quadriceps on both legs engaged. So our legs are very strong and actively reaching and lengthening. Good. So again, you should be in a straight line because you use the edge of your mat. I just kind of align myself to the back edge of this mat. See, I can feel like that my butt is like half an inch away. And I know my arm is. So that's how I know. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% perfectly straight, but you want to try to get as straight as you can. So I usually just use a few fingers for the kickstand. Because if you just rely too heavily on the hand, then your abs just kind of get lazy. All right, let's do our little circles. Very slow, very small. So about hip height, parallel legs, inhale. Exhale for the next one. Inhale. Really small, like ping pong ball size. Reverse it. If in doubt, go slower. Inhale. Draw the ping pong. Exhale. What happens if you go too fast, if your body starts to spasm? And we're trying to avoid that. And also slower movements just really make your outer thighs do a lot more work. Concentrated focus here. Okay, I know your top leg's tired, but we're going to keep it up there. We're going to kick it forward. You say kick, but really it's going to be a slow, controlled movement forward. If you find that your kickstand hand is not enough and you just keep falling, you can bend the bottom knee a little bit, and that'll also act sort of like a kickstand. So it'll prevent you from falling. So it means, see, I can take my whole hand away if I do that. So feel free to try that version, but you will feel more work in the abdominals and maybe a little more pressure into the hands. But definitely also into the abdominals if you keep that bottom leg straight. Leg stays parallel, so we're not lower into the floor. Although, by the way, that is in itself an exercise. Maybe we could do it. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. And I don't know if I've done it with you guys before. So you reach it forward. You gently tap the floor. Don't put any weight on it. Just touch the floor and then return. So you go forward, touch, lift, return. So you can decide how far forward you want to go. But try to keep the leg at hip height until you decide to lower it and lift, return. Good. You're squeezing your butt to bring your leg back to alignment. Hip flexors here. Let's do one more. All right, let's rest the top leg. This is a great way of resting it, and lift the bottom leg. So I like to flex the bottom foot and really reach the heel out. I find that I feel my inner thigh more this way. We're now working on the inner thighs of the bottom leg. Why are we doing this? Because outer thigh, inner thigh muscles help stabilize the pelvis too. Without a stable pelvis, we won't have a stable spine. Pull the bottom leg up as high as possible and make those same small circles. Again, you can draw with your toes if you want. But remember, the whole leg moves in the hip socket. It is not an ankle rolling movement. Move the whole leg. Circle. Circle near the top. Reverse. For 6, 5, keep breathing. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. We're going to switch sides. What is this? Some weird dirt on my mat. Okay, so we're same thing. I always lift my hand just to make sure I'm a little wobbly, and then I know for certain I'm lying on my side. Good. Activate those legs, nice and straight. Kneecaps facing forward. Lifting no higher than the hip. You can go a little higher than the hip, but you don't want to like go as high as you can. Basically because your muscles do less work if gravity doesn't have its greatest amount of pull on your leg. And so around parallel, you'll feel the most work. Also, the other reason is because our pelvis, you want to keep it in neutral. And if you lift your leg too high, then it causes your pelvis to hike. We're trying to avoid that pelvis hike. Okay, before you get too tired, let's make those little circles, 6 in each direction. 1, 2, yes, excruciatingly slow. 3, 4. The goal is to feel the muscles working. 5. Keep alternating the breath. Reverse, inhale for 1. Exhale for 2. Bottom leg is not at rest. Inhale for 3. Exhale for 4. Abdominal engaged. Can't even touch my abs without falling. Okay. I know your leg is tired, and if it is, absolutely give it a rest. If it's doing okay, we're going to go forward and back. So let's just do a couple forward and back before we add the little lower tap. Again, I'm just keeping my leg pretty much at hip heights. So as my leg comes forward, I can see it, right? Like I can't see my leg right now. If I could see my leg right now, it means my head and neck is out of alignment with my spine. So the only time I can see my foot is when it goes forward. And then I can then see that it's about hip heights. And now let's add the lowering. So I go as far forward as I can. I lower straight down vertically, lift straight back to hip height, and return. If you need a little more support for this, more than your hand is able to give you, bend the bottom knee. Lift, and I can take my hand break. Oops, I forgot to tap it. Tap, lift. Okay. So still really challenging on the outer thigh. I would say that where it takes it away is from your abdominals. So don't feel as much in my abs when my bottom knee is bent, compared to when my bottom leg is straight. Definitely feel more abs in. But I also understand that it can be a lot of pressure on the wrist or fingers because the leg is going forward. See 2 more. Oh, do you see how I cheated there? I basically like resting my leg on the floor. So ideally, we want to just tap and go straight back up and not let any of the weight of the leg rest on the floor. So that's what I confess. Okay, so bottom leg goes up. Because our top leg is very, very turny. When we're working with gravity, we're always working on the muscle. Wow, I wouldn't say always, like 95% of the time. On the muscle that faces this guy. So because we're lifting up, we're working the inner thigh muscle. And here at the top leg, when we're lifting up, we're working the outer thigh muscle. And if we're standing upright and we're pressing something to the ceiling, we're working our shoulder muscle. It's what's facing the ceiling. I guess the only time it doesn't really work is for planks. All right, let's make those little circles. Again, you want to move the whole leg. So you can either draw with the circle, and then draw the circle with like an ink smudge on your heel, or you can point the toe and draw with your toe. Reverse it for 6, 5, 4. At the highest point you can do it. Your top leg prohibits you from going any higher anyway, so don't worry about going accidentally too high. See, for your top leg, you can accidentally go too high because there's nothing that stops it. So I can accidentally go too high, right? That's not. It's not the goal. All right. Let's do a quick inner thigh stretch. So you can pull your legs up. It's okay if your legs are slightly bent. And just let your legs fall apart, and it stretches your inner thigh here. And have support here. Using gravity to help stretch. And flex your foots, getting to not just the inner thighs, but also the hamstrings. All right. The stretch for the outer thighs is knee over the opposite, ankle over the opposite knee. And then pull everything close. And switch. We're going to work on our shoulder bridge now. So back when we did it in the warm-up, we articulated our way up but now we're going to do hip bridges with no articulation. So I pop it right up, drop it back down. Pop it back up, drop it back down. Good. On my next hop, I'm going to lift a knee. So as I drive my hip up, I'm going to lift the knee. So that means only one leg, one butt cheek is doing all the work to lift both hips or the entire pelvis up to the same height. So let's try with the other leg. All right, so it's not like because this leg is not on the ground anymore, this pelvis or this hip is lower. Drop. Drive. Drive. So my abs are engaged, and of course my, or whatever butt is on the ground. Sorry, whichever leg is on the ground, that butt isn't. And let's try a few with the leg going fully straight. So as I drive, kick, return, kick. You can go through sort of a knee bend to kick, knee bend to kick. It's fine. Because we're definitely not like straightening here and lifting up like this. So I do lead with the knee toward the ceiling first before I extend the leg. Okay, if you want to stay with the knee bent version, go right ahead. This just gets a little bit more into the quads, and a little more stretch of the hamstrings. Right, let's try one more time on each side. We're going to go into some crunch work here. So what I want to say about crunches is that if your hands are behind the head and neck, your abs are not just lifting the torso, but they're also lifting the weight of your arms. If you do crunches with your arms forward, your arms kind of help with the assist of the crunch, and instead of lifting the weight of your arms are in the front assisting. So the negative part is that your neck's not supported. So you can go back and forth between these two arm positions. All right, so we're going to add a knee lift. So I'm going to have my hands back here. You're never pulling on your neck like this. You're just supporting the head and neck. All right, so you almost want to imagine like your arms aren't even there. The elbows stay wide. Go ahead and alternate. Your elbows stay wide. And it's just like your fingertips are attached to the back of your head. But I'm not pulling. And if you find that you keep pulling on your neck, then I would encourage you to just bring your arms here. Okay, so that was the single leg lift. I'm gonna try a double knee lift, and I will tell you this is more challenging because sometimes we'll feel like there's an arch in the back right before we lift up. So you really want to focus on the imprint. So we're imprinted here, and then lift. And again, you can do it this way. Lift. Good. So it's not, you can have your feet farther, and that makes it more challenging. But I'm not aiming for the 90-degree knees. I'm basically saying your knees are bent. And then we're lifting both legs up. So feel free to keep the knee angle less than 90. Variations. So starting from the lift here, what makes this more challenging? Anytime is leg extension. So knees bent is always a little easier than leg extended. So let's say extended this one leg, you know, like we were doing bicycle. So from here, lower and lift. But keep in mind that the leg straight is definitely adds a level of challenge. So don't want you to go all the way to the floor right away. I want you to just kind of feel it out. Crunch. Release a little bit. Crunch. Keep imprinted. And if you feel like you can take your legs all the way to the floor, and up without any arching of the back or any pain in the lower back. And try a few that way. Let's not do too many. Let's do about 3 more. All right. So take a quick break here. We gotta switch legs. But I want you to start from the top because it's always hard to bring it up from the bottom. I mean, harder. All right. It's obviously you can do it. You can do this and lift. But I'm gonna suggest starting from here, extending the leg, lifting the shoulders. You can again have the arms here. Then I just want you to open up a little bit and then crunch back up. So a little release, really focusing on that imprint. All right, so that's about 4. And if you want to try the latter 4 where you go all the way down, I'm just going to take my hands here. 4. So I've shown you variations. So find what's challenging but doable. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Ooh. Abs fatigued, right? So let's flip that over for some spine work. All right, so one great movement for our shoulders is windmilling, or just going full range, all the way down, all the way up overhead. So that's what we're gonna do here. But it's gonna be a side windmill like this. If we're making snow angels, but let's say we're just sort of uncoordinated, so we do it this way. So, anyways, feel free to do however you like, but the goal is that our arms go up here by the ears and then down here by the hips to get that range of motion in the shoulders. All right. So please start with a lift up here. If you want to circle up and then back like this. You can lower a little bit as you come forward and then lift back up as you reach back. Now, the reason I showed you that is because that's a variation. But the other variation is when I windmill my arms like this, because there's always one arm back, I'm pretty much going to be keeping your chest up the whole time. So there's a lot more endurance in the spine, okay? So it looks like this. And just keep alternating the breath. Inhale, exhale. I'm using my spine muscles to keep my chest slightly lifted. My head and neck is aligned with my spine, so I'm keeping my eye gaze on the floor. And I'm just getting that full range of motion with my arms. Reaching high over my head, forward. Tops of my feet staying on the mat. You can activate those quads if you want, which is actually advised, but if it's too much to think about, don't worry about it. But we're not lifting our legs. 4, 3, 2. Lots of endurance of the the spine muscles. All right, so remember that this is the opposite of spine extension. This stretch right here. The opposite of spine extension. All right. So we're going to do rolling like a ball. And typically, you're actually on your butt when you do it, but I like to start from the ground because it forces you to activate the muscles that you need in order to get there. So, do we look like a ball right now? No. This is one of those exercises that looks really simple, but it's actually a little more challenging to execute properly. So in order to get to my tailbone, I have to use my abs to crunch. So remember this crunching motion? Same thing. Crunch, 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 until you generate a little bit of a rocking, and then you're all the way up. And the goal here is that you want to think about each roll to be a crunch using your abs. So I can't roll with a straight spine, so I have to deepen the curvature of my spine. Roll to my mid-back, crunch. Roll to my mid-back and crunch. There's a little bit of timing. Inhale, exhale, crunch. I hold on to my shins because I really want my leg and knees to stay like this. What I don't want to do is something like that, because that is just bypassing your abs. That's using the weight of your legs to shift your body around so that you don't even need your abs to do the work. So the tighter you can stay as a ball, the more challenge. So if you want to have a super, super challenging roll like a ball, you can hug your knee really close like this. And I'm going to say right now that I can't do it like this. But, yeah, see, my abs, I'm too tight. My abs aren't strong enough to get me up there. So this is a little more doable for me. I do feel the challenge. I feel my abs working every time I crunch up. Because if I didn't use my abs, this is what would happen. My falling back gives me enough momentum that I'm kind of rocking here, but not enough to get all the way back up. And that's really the trick. That's the important aspect of rolling like a ball. It's not just a rocking and back and forth thing. All right, having done that, we're now going to do our, once again, a little bit of balance. So if you call grabbing behind your hamstrings, extend one leg nice and straight, and then extend the other. Good. And then see if you can roll, accelerate, decelerate. So when I crunch, feel free to bend your knees again. But when I crunch, I use my abs, but I have to stop the momentum. Otherwise, this happens. All right. So again, remember how I showed you when you kick like this, it kind of the weight shift, helps you get back up. But if your legs are already straight, how much your legs can do to help you back up? So this kind of forces your abs to do work. You can grab higher if you want. My legs are apart. Oops, I didn't make it. By the way, when you don't make it, it's not a big deal. It just means your abs are working. All right. I actually really like the rolling like a ball and the open V rocker series. But I also understand it's not everyone's favorite because it's a little bit challenging. It actually segues into the teaser. But we already done some very teaser-like exercises today, so I'm not gonna do any more of that. I'm just gonna finish here with some stretching. So we have our hands and knees, and you can also do this on your elbows if you like, but we basically want to create that roundness in the spine. And then the arch in the back. So finding your full range of motion with your spine. You don't need to look up here. It's just about keeping that head and neck along the same curvature of your spine. So if you have to feel that strain in the neck in order to look up, then most likely you are hyperextending the neck. You don't want to feel any strain in the back of that neck muscle. You want your neck to just flow with the movement of your spine. All right, my spine is rounded here, so obviously my head's down. My spine is a little arched here, so my eye gaze is going to be more towards the edge of my mat than to the wall. And then I do want you to try spine twist. So if you come back to neutral and you thread under, so if you're on your elbows, you can do the same thing. You're basically kind of turning your rib cage and chest one way while your butt is staying, or your pelvis is staying square to the floor because your knees are. Right? So the direction of your shoulders face compared to the direction of your pelvis or knees face pretty much determines rotation. Try the other side. You're rotated when your pelvis is one direction and your chest and shoulders are another. For some reason, when I was in that position, it's like all this fluid around my nose. Anyways, that is our Pilates for today. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Do you think back to basics, but also show some different variations? So that's kind of what Pilates is in a nutshell. We have our standard Pilates exercises created by Joseph H. Pilates back in I think the 40s or 50s. And then we just have variations upon variations of those classic exercises.